My apologies. This video is shot in a way that I don't even shoot my videos 60 frames. It's because it's still set up for my stream. Today's video is going to be an interesting one. I am being lectured by clearly a white woman on basically the history of blacks and their oppression when it comes to private property and what that has to do with sort of race and my position, right? So I got to preface this. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up because I'm gonna go through not only what she said, but I gotta set the scene as well. So this stems from this, right? So some of you guys may know this guy has this page, right, called Racism Dog, 600,000 followers on Twitter. Now, the owners of this fictional Racism Dog have also created their own Twitter. And he had some interesting, stupid things to say about libertarianism. And that stupid thing stems from a lot of, okay, he doesn't see black libertarians. Why do you think white people mainly are libertarians? First of all, this guy is operating on this notion that this is why I called him a self-hating white person, though he claims that he is not white, though all the evidence points to the contrary. If he's not white, whatever. If I'm wrong on that, whatever. But all the evidence points to the fact that the person that was saying all this was a white leftist. Now, he's operating from this idea in a lot of these tweets that, okay, white people, I see mostly white people supporting us, therefore bad. That's why I said that he was self-hating. Now, that's not the bulk of what we're going to discuss in this video, but I did want to address it because it is a silly position to have. That is that because there's a primary makeup of what you see, so you're basing everything off of your perception, and there's a primary makeup of what you see in terms of people adopting, let's say, this philosophy or ideology or whatever have you. And you conflate, well, because I see mostly these types of people doing it, it's bad. Not only bad, but it's bad for other people that are maybe of a different makeup or demographic. That is such a silly position to have because the merit of whatever it is that these people are adopting or whatever human affair these guys are a part of have absolutely nothing to do with that. It has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not they're like the position is legitimate or if it's rooted in truth or if it's bad or if it's good or anything like that or merit. It has nothing to do whether the primary makeup was predominantly this or predominantly that. It doesn't matter, right? And I've done videos on this. I've talked about this concept of representation and all of this stuff, so you can go check those videos out. But obviously, there were other people that came to my page out of all this because I'm calling this guy silly. This is what he is. Like this whole notion, for example, first of all, I'm not white. Don't believe it. Second, explain why, as a black person, should support libertarianism. And I've already explained how I don't know why he says, okay, well, black person, why would they support libertarianism as if libertarianism isn't a philosophy that encompasses all individuals, no matter what demographic they are a part of. The concept of non-aggression, the concept of private property rights is beneficial for every single individual, no matter who you are, right? But why would I? And again, a lot of this stems from him not understanding what libertarianism is. But let's get up to this other woman who has some interesting things to say. White woman. It's so wild to me that you think people who have been denied access to private property for 400 years. First of all, there's nobody that is 400 years that I'm aware of. But nonetheless, there's only one institution that can orchestrate something such as this and denying what she's alluding to a whole lot of people because of their color, private property or access to private property. It's the state. which libertarianism, the reason why we're against this state is because it's a territorial monopoly on use of force, violence, and ultimate decision making. It is the ultimate aggressor. It is the ultimate violator of private property rights. Simple as that. So you would think the first people, if that's the position, right? The position is, well, for 400 years, people have been denied access to private property. You'd think those be the main people, those people that have been denied this access for 400 years, whatever that means. They'll be the first people in line to adopt something like libertarianism because we recognize that doing that is wrong. Like, that's the whole point of the philosophy, right? That's why we are libertarians. But she also says, will benefit a system that, I think she means from a system, that centers private property rights more than we already do. Yes, like that's the problem. Like the system, right, even right now to this day, you can argue America, slavery era America and such was absolutely violating the private property rights in self-ownership. Self-ownership is a private property rights for those that are on level one and don't understand that it is the core private property right. So this is why, you look at it from, and I may do some more videos on this because a lot of people get confused when I say something like all rights are private property rights. And they're like, well, what about this? What about this? And what about that? Like, you got to look at it from that aspect. And I think it's because they completely missed the concept of what we explain, such as private property rights and self-ownership. Like, look at aggression. Like, if I punch somebody unprovoked, basically it being an act of aggression, it is a violent bodily invasion. So look at it like that. This is why we say there are no rights that aren't private property rights. Rights aren't granted by the government. Doesn't matter what your government documents say or anything like that. Rights don't come from the government or anything of that nature. But the problem with the current system, even to this day, is that it is violating people's private property rights in more ways than not. Unfortunately, when you consider what the state is and how it impedes on people's private property rights, be it through taxation, be it through regulation, be it through all these sorts of different laws and such. There's so many ways. And again, libertarianism, we want to address that and rid the world of it. That's the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate end game. So why wouldn't black people benefit from that? Why wouldn't any person benefit from that? And then she asks, how will the dispossessed benefit given existing concentration of wealth ownership? First of all, now again, this is level one. It's like arguing with a child, right? And this is why I'm kind of frustrated because it's like, dang, man, here we are still. In current year, I'm still addressing these nonsensical arguments. Number one, a lot of the concentration of wealth, if there is to be any concentration of wealth, centers around corporate entities utilizing or being able to utilize the state to not only keep them at the top, but stifle their competition. This is why so many of these big businesses are advocates of even things such as further taxation, regulation, and even things like minimum wage. The big guys are the ones that can, you get an economics lesson today. The big guys are the ones that can survive it. No matter how many people put forth these ideas and we are trying to help the little man, they don't understand that it are the smaller companies and the mom and pop shops and so forth. When you're asking for new regulations, those are the ones that cannot survive it. Walmarts of the world can survive those sorts of regulations. When you have to tell the mom and pop shop, oh, well, you have to pay this person more. You have to follow this regulation, meaning you have to spend more money to jump through these hoops in order to even exist legally as a business. But nonetheless, when you consider all of that, she's operating from this nonsensical idea that wealth is as if it's like this fixed pie. So which is why I thought the concept of concentration of wealth was an interesting thing, because it assumes that wealth is a fixed pie and therefore all the wealth's over here. Therefore, other people of different demographics can't benefit from this. And that's just not how wealth works. Wealth, if that was the case, there would be no rise in living standards or anything like that. No, wealth is not a fixed, it's created more so. It's not a fixed pie. Just because somebody else has something does not mean that you are going without something just because they have it. This is one of the economic laws that you see a lot of statists, a lot of political groups and parties and such, what they try to make it seem is if this is the case. Hey, this is why they always partner. Look at that person over there makes $1 billion. Look at those people over there makes $1 million. Now, granted, they completely disregard everything else. In some cases, some of these guys, I'd agree actually, that they are in positions of power, but it's because of the state, or in position of wealth. It's because of the state through different regulatory laws and such, which again stomps out their competition. Don't get me started on how IP laws and such work as well. That's why I lose a lot of people, because they're like, oh, well, you're a musician. Wouldn't you be against? Why would you be against intellectual property? Well, it's because it's not a scarce resource. We'll cover that for another video. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have a lot of little points in this video where people are, oh, how dare you say that? Like, we'll get there. But the bulk of this is, I wanted to point to this more so because this is something that I experience a lot of, right? And that is white leftists. And I mean, unless she completely just misses who I am, right? I don't think there's any confusion. I mean, this guy's pretty brown skin. I know it's what my band and what, but I think it's pretty obvious. Maybe she's colorblind. And if that, I apologize if that's the case. But she's a socialist, by the way. If you go to her page, she's a socialist. She says socialism is what she's more so an advocate of, right? Cat parent, socialist. And I experience this a lot on the internet, where a lot of these types are often white, lecture me and basically saying that, well, you as a black person, you shouldn't support this concept of libertarianism or capitalism. And it just goes to show that they think they have this sort of intellectual monopoly on what it is black people are supposed to think. This monolithic sort of thought. Let me go back to me. Let me go back to the good looking man real quick. And that's just complete nonsense, by the way. And this is what I wish people would get off of. And that is understanding that this is a concept that is beneficial to all. But in order to understand that it's beneficial to all, you have to understand what libertarianism is. And this is where a lot of people don't get it. And a lot of people don't understand it. It's because they don't get the concept of libertarianism anyway. This actual whole session started off with the racism dog owners going out there and saying that libertarians are just Republicans who are open or who smoke weed and are open to doing that. And it's just such a crazy thing to say, such a nutty idea, because it's not true. It couldn't be further from the truth. But that's what these guys operate from. They operate from these straw mans, these slogans, not actually going by what the advocates of libertarianism or what the actual advocates of capitalism are advocates of. Libertarianism is about private property rights, starting with self-ownership, therefore non-aggression. And that is, you do not have the right to aggress upon another individual. And the whole goal of libertarianism is to rid the world as much as possible of this aggression that exists upon people's persons and property, which are one and the same. But on the internet, man, it's crazy how much I get, because a lot of people do see my color and they're like, well, why would you as a black person support this? And I'm like, and then they'll give me this historical lecture. I'm like, dude, you're actually making my point. You'd think that I, of all people, be the main ones to be libertarian if I'm going by history of black people in this country. Though that's not solely why I adopt libertarianism. I did an article like 5 years ago. So both beinglibertarian.com, I think it's on Libertarian Republic, if I'm not mistaken as well, talking about why if black folks understood the history and they cling to their history so much, histories that they had no experience in, right? But they cling to that history so much. If they understood that history and learned from it, there would be way more black libertarians, because of the simple fact that the state has been the greatest tool of the racist folks that have been oppressing black people through the years. Slavery. As soon as they were fresh off the boat, you look at slavery. sanctioned by the state, endorsed by the state, mandated by the state. You look at black coach, you look at Jim Crow laws, you look at all the Supreme Court cases from Plessy v. Ferguson, Dred Scott v. Sanford. All of those are the state being used to oppress black people. Why wouldn't I be a libertarian?